think we have everybody except for Josh. We'll wait 1 minute. Hopefully
Josh should have it on his email as well.
okay,
Sorry about that, everybody.
no worries. Zoom is great, but it has some weird things.
It'll be good for the YouTube video. It's like a little shorter. We'll have a part 1 and part 2.
Right. Yeah.
You said you sent that to Josh Noah? The link?
I did, and I'm sending him a personal one right now.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I will keep rolling forward with some of these questions. Josh will hopefully be joining us again in a minute here. But I want to spend a little bit time now, Sarah and Michelle, talking about food safety concerns and also some of your dock receiving protocols, and just talk a little bit about temperatures and transportation and things like that. I know that some schools, including MMSD in the past, have asked for or strongly encouraged farms to have third-party audits or GAP certification of some variety. Can you talk a little bit about kind of if you have any protocols in place or certain standards that you're looking for, if you temperature check cases when they come into the docks, and just kind of what your quality considerations are? Michelle, are you able, I know you have your video off, but are you able to join? All right.
Yes, it's a little chaotic. There's 4 of them.
Yeah, I totally understand.
We do not require a GAP certification. Most of the farms that we buy from, I've personally gone there. Yes, when we get a processed product in, we do a temperature check just like we do on the other truck or any other truck or product.
Okay.
And then also, I'm usually there on delivery so we can see, what's going on or how they're delivering, because we've had some deliveries in the back of a pickup and things like that. And so we've kind of fixed those things.
Okay. And how about you, Sarah?
We're the same. We do not require the GAP certification. We are currently purchasing local beef, and we do require that it's USDA processed or approved. I can't think of the right word, but inspected. That's the word. That it goes through USDA inspection, and that it is stamped when we receive it, so that we can track it if necessary, if there's an issue with it. But in terms of our fruits and veggies that we would get in, we don't have many rules against it. I will go to the farm, like Michelle said, for most instances. And then we just make sure that the product is visibly looks okay when we accept it.
Mm-hmm. All right. And Josh, yes, sorry about the video issues you're having, but do you want to talk a little bit about kind of how Madison approaches food safety and working with producers?
Sure. I will be speaking from the perspective of somebody who took over the role from a larger team who had a bunch of resources developed. But I think that I'm correct in saying in the past, Madison worked with mainly commercial suppliers and did require GAP certification. Mm-hmm. This year, we have taken a step in a specific direction. So in March, I went to Produce Safety University in California, and that entire training is very specifically geared towards using a GAP style set of criteria, depending on your preferences and your ability to execute document standards, to incorporate potentially non-commercial growers or those who are commercial growers but have not pursued GAP certification into your operation without there being just a complete drop off. I mean, Sarah, you talked about it, like on-site audits, just checking the operations out, and not going straight from saying, oh, I'm buying from a big commercial distributor. They've got $20 million of liability insurance and they're GAP certified. And like, that's all handled for me to like, yeah, I have no idea what your operation is. And you just pulled up a car with some zucchini in it. Like nobody really wants to take a step that wide. So what we did with the student grown lettuce, for example, that's not commercial supply, is I use the training to develop training for the garden crews and standards. They're closely inspired by GAP certification. They just don't have the actual administrative process. It's similar to something that I did in my previous life with University Extension in Minnesota, which does do a lot of support for GAP oriented growing practices without actually going through the certification process. So that's how we handle it. I'm directly responsible for making those decisions and deciding on the spec.
Yeah. All right. Do any of our producers have any questions about that, about kind of food safety or anything in that regarding that? I know there's there can be a lot of confusion around food safety and the both the lack of standards, but then also different certification programs and stuff too. And, you know, each institution has different needs and stuff as well. So if any questions do come up, please feel free to put those in the chat. And we're a small enough group, honestly, that you should feel free to just unmute yourself and ask a question out loud as well. So I have just one more question that I wanted to pose to our panelists, and then I'm actually going to I've gotten a couple questions from the producers on the call, so we'll maybe turn over to having them talk a little bit about what some of their needs are and wants in working with institutions. But for our last question here for our panelists, you know, aside from kind of your regular menu options and salad bars and things like that where you incorporate local products, do you have any special events or weeks where you specifically feature local things? And I know we have the statewide Great Lakes Apple Crunch program and Chili Lunch. Do you participate in those programs? And also, are there any other things that you do that are maybe specific to your school that feature local products? Sarah, why don't you want to start with that question?
Sure. So we do participate with the statewide Great Lakes Apple Crunch and the Chili Lunch. Those are always fun just to see, you know, a lot of people doing the same programs. We have a Harvest of the Month program. So every month we will feature a different fruit or vegetable, and then we incorporate it into Try It Days or Taste Test Days in the cafeteria for the younger grade levels. So we will try and source as locally as possible for those so that we can introduce them to, oh, this was grown, you know, 15 miles away, but also maybe something that they don't typically see on the menu. So that's kind of our way to feature it when it's not on a salad bar. We also have a partnership with a farm that every once in a while, if they know that they're going to have an excessive amount of one particular item that they can share with us, then we will advertise it, but it'll just be part of our normal menu, but we'll just, I don't know, put advertising all over the place just to share that it is local.
Yeah. And your Harvest of the Month and your Try It Days, are you giving them raw products or are you cooking or doing something else?
So it depends on what it is. We will turn it into a recipe if that makes more sense. Some vegetables taste a lot better prepared than raw. But sometimes, like, we've done cranberries before where we've had them taste both a craisin as well as the fresh cranberry so that they can taste the difference. So sometimes we'll switch it up and do a little bit of both.
Yeah. Thank you. Michelle, do you want to answer that next?
Sure. We also do Harvest of the Month. I don't always advertise it on the menu unless I know I've got it. So we just really promote that kind of stuff. We put it on the menu before and then weren't able to get it. And then we have asparagus from Mexico and it's embarrassing. So but that day when we know we're going to get it, or that week, we really advertise it out to the teachers, especially elementary level. I had a lot of interns in the past who've made YouTube videos or things like that, or you can click on this link and see the farm, and That
Yeah.
is really helpful for the students, especially when we did the microgreens. They're from Supercharge in Madison, so they had a little video and they got to see, and they came so excited to eat them that we
Yeah.
were like gone in one grade.
Oh,
So we try to do that kind of stuff, and also social media, of course, which works really well for the parents. But yeah, we try to really blast it out there when we have something local on, but yeah, we do like to go in the classrooms, especially when I have interns, just to taste things, and that's really, really helpful to get them excited about it.
thank you. And then Josh, you want to talk about any special programs at MMSD?
Yeah, we did. The Harvest of the Month is something I think MMSD used to do, and it's a great program. We should get back on with it. What we did this last fall was we started serving side salads at all meal periods with the elementaries, because we did not have salad bars reestablished yet. And we really focused on getting the local produce involved in those side salads and in entrees. With the salad bars coming back online, that will become the point of focus. We got 5 schools back into it at the late spring. And it's astonishing actually how much more popular the salad bar is than saying, do you want a salad? It's funny that that's the case, because when you watch what students are taking, they amount to the same things that they're eating. Yeah. But it's all about presentation, in my opinion, and the variety. So we'll be looking to do things such as, the focal point is, Sarah talked about, the chili cook-off and the apple crunch. Those are not difficult to participate in. They're well established. They're well promoted, even outside the district. So they're easy to free ride on. I'm really focused on longevity and visibility in the program. And so we won't stop doing those things. But what I'm really wanting to do is, like, an example for me would be, and this hits on something Sarah talked about too, with the difference between cooked and raw. Doing a simple composed salad that might not be 100% local vegetables, but we could do something like, okay, well, we got in squash, summer or winter squash, roasted it and made a composed salad. And whether for cost reasons or volume reasons or availability over time, to just say, we want this to feature on the salad bars for as long as possible. And to repeat the message over and over and over again. That's a limitation I find with those sort of celebratory things, is like, boom, that's it, it's over. And yeah. I want us to be challenging in Madison, to challenge ourselves to get this stuff in the menu for as long a period of time as possible, and let families know that it's there. Yeah. So salad bar will be the focus for that reason.
All right, thank you. All right. Any questions from our producers who are with us today? Feel free to come off mute if you want to ask anything out loud, or you can send us a chat as well.
Oh, this is Jeannie Blasberg. We're not ready yet, but in the future, when we are set up with more volume, what steps do we need to go through to be considered a vendor to the school districts? I understand the food safety and all that. I heard that loud and clear, but assuming we meet those hurdles, like, what do you have to do if a menu is planned out far in advance to be a vendor that's considered for far in advance? Application portal online. I see that. Okay.
Yeah, I think every school kind of approaches it differently. So maybe we'll have each of our panelists ask that question. So Josh put his response in the chat. So MMSD has a vendor application portal online. Sarah, how do you find new farms?
So in the past, I have used hold on, I want to get the name right, the Wisconsin Local Foods Database. So it was created by the AmeriCorps program in partnership probably with other people. And it is a giant spreadsheet that will say, so if your farm is listed, it will tell me what veggies and fruits and products that you offer. And so if I'm looking for something that I know I'm going to have this on my menu and I'm looking for a local product, I can see that your farm has it. So I might reach out to you. And on the same note, it also has my information. So if you're like, oh, I would love to to start selling to schools, you can see which districts are interested in what products we're interested in. So it kind of works both ways. And I can try and find a link for that and throw that in the chat.
Actually, Allison did already.
Oh,
I believe
you're on top of it.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, it is. It's a DPI website that I believe AmeriCorps maintains, right? I think it's through one of their programs, but yeah, that's a great resource as well. Michelle, do you want to answer that question too?
Sure, that I also use that document. Definitely if I'm looking for something, because usually it's quite specific of what they grow. But I started working with the Wisconsin Food Hub, and I really like that because I can get it all in one truck and it's less coordination. Otherwise I do have people that just reach out to me sometimes that know that I like local, and they say, I have a ton of, you know, baby peppers. Do you want them? Yes.
Yeah, we can touch on that for a minute here. Aggregators, right? Food Hub is an aggregator. When REAP has done snack program with MMSD, Allison has used aggregators to supply some of that. So Scott Williams is one of them in the local area. Seasonal Harvest is another one located up in the Green Bay area, who also have a partnership with a local processor. So they do some chopped vegetables as well. But Josh, I know that Scott Williams has sold some products to MMSD in the past. Are you using an aggregator at this point at all for any local?
Yeah, Seasonal Harvest. I've known Scott forever. And
Yeah.
it's cool he's in that business. But yeah, we mainly it was through Allison's extremely supportive work. I just learned that,
Yeah,
you know, it was right around the time that Green Bay, I think, picked up participation in Seasonal Harvest. And I know the director from Green Bay. Actually, we found out we know each other from way back, but it's like, oh, well, they're doing serious volume. If they're doing, what was it, Allison? I think 9 districts in Brown, and then picked up Green Bay too. So that was part of the consideration. Was they Tracy from Olden Organics was offering processed, really cool program, returnable buckets, so very low waste food grade liners, pre-cuts, and it was just like, well, this is exactly how we have a very smooth path into incorporating local produce. So yep, worked out well.
Another quick question, Anna, you said Wisconsin Food Hub and Seasonal Harvest, but was there one other aggregator you mentioned?
So Scott Williams is, and I'm blanking on his farm name right now. Allison, do you remember?
Garden to Be.
Garden to Be, that's right. Thank you, Noah. And then Fifth Season is another aggregator that's based over in the Viroqua area. I think they partner with a lot of Amish farms, but they may have some additional farms as well. I know that they sell to schools. Perfection Produce, David Parr, who's based in Monticello, is another aggregator that I've heard sells to some schools. So they're also, you know, kind of a good way, especially if you don't have the volume to start with, right? Because they'll pick up and they'll do the aggregation and help with the delivery and transportation and stuff. But so those are the ones that I know of in this area.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Anna, it's Lisa. Could I jump in with just a couple questions and a couple comments?
Yeah.
I'm Lisa Schlingen. I'm from Blue Mounds, and I'm a farmer and a beef producer. And I have worked with institutions in the past. And so my first, I guess, a question is in regards to the Food Hub. When a while ago, I had contacted the Food Hub wanting to work with them. They were not set up to take meat. Is the Food Hub accepting meat now? Do you know?
I don't know, honestly. I'd have to reach out to them. They may still not be, although, you know, the Farmers Union as a whole is very active in the infrastructure development around slaughter facilities and kind of growing the small meat industry. So they may have branched into that area now just in support of that work. But I don't know for a fact.
Okay, all right. I thought it would, maybe I didn't know if any of you were.
Yeah.
It's not, it hasn't been on their list when I've purchased things.
Yeah, because they're not set up to take it. And so my connections with local schools and institutions has just been my own kind of beat the bushes sort of. And last year I sent emails and letters out to quite a few local districts and just said, hey, I'm here. If you could use us as a resource, we'd love to provide you with some beef. And I did get some responses back from that. And it was great. And so just one comment that I do have as a producer, particularly of meat, is that we need lead time in terms of being able to provide you with the volume that you need. There are some beef producers that are maybe only processing one animal a month or every couple of months. I'm processing more than that every month. And however, when I get a call and they want a few 100 pounds of something, it literally takes me months to be able to accumulate that beef. Because for certain cuts, you only get 15 pounds of that cut off of an animal. So it takes several animals over several months to be able to accumulate enough for you. So I think, you know, as a producer, lead time is super important for us in order to be able to work with you like we want to. And I was listening to some of the conversation earlier about your scheduling and how all of that works. And so I get it. And then also, go ahead, Anna. I
was going to say though, and maybe I can turn this over to Josh or even Michelle or Sarah if you want to provide feedback on the protein side. On the meat side, you probably can do some future contracting, right? I mean, that's one where it's much easier to order months in advance, right? Because you're kind of dealing with direct quantities and it's a freezer product, right? So you can either say we need it delivered by this point for the month of December, let's say, or further even. So do you do that currently with your meat products or your frozen products?
So I currently purchase ground beef from a local farmer, and we have a non-official agreement, but she delivers to us roughly every other week throughout the school year, with some exceptions of holidays, breaks, things like that. Every once in a while, depending on like snow days, you know, like sometimes it gets altered. However, we have kind of a set, she delivers 200 pounds to us. And sometimes I'll say, oh, well, I added an extra a menu day to that, so I need 250. Or sometimes if we have too many due to snow days or something, like I can decrease that. But that way we know she'll have it ready for us. And yeah, we make that agreement pretty far in advance, which is helpful for both of us. And it is something that we can store longer term because of that. So it's a lot different than our fresh fruits and veggies.
Sure. Okay. And, you know, I'm assuming you have deliveries come on a regular basis because of storage space, right? It's not like you can order a huge quantity and then keep it.
Yeah, so I have her delivered to only one of our schools just so that she's not hopping to all 7. And so therefore storage is more difficult for us.
Yeah. Okay. Josh, how do you do that with ordering meat?
Sorry, I was just getting off of me. We have a ton of storage, and the MMSD has not done very much with local meat. We didn't do anything this past year. Our volume tends to knock out a lot of conversations right off the bat, unfortunately. I do think that high school build your own bars could be a good venue for this. That's 4 of our 52 schools. And so we don't, again, you know, like talking about doing something across all the elementaries, it's just a huge amount of volume to begin with. But I could see something like carne asada, you know, at a high school nacho bar being a special feature, something like this. But storage is not an issue for us. Never has been. We're overbuilt that way.
Yeah. Okay. So do you order, like, let's say you order pallets of meat at a time or whatever, and you keep them in the freezer and use them as you need it? Or do you, like, how often would you get a delivery of, let's say, ground beef?
Yeah, we get them in palletized. We get them in well in advance and then slack to need.
Okay. Lisa, do you have access to a lot of freezer storage?
I
Facility
have,
or-
I have my own, I actually have 2 walk-in freezers of my own. And
Okay.
so I'm okay on my storage end of
Yeah.
things. When, you know, previously, this quite a while ago, when I was talking with institutions, price point was a hurdle, we'll say that.
Yeah.
Because you know, the school could only spend X amount, that's all they could pay. They could buy commodity beef so much cheaper than what they were able to buy it from me or local, that that was one reason why I sort of gave up for a while too, trying to work with institutions, because I'm like, I don't know where we can go from here. I know what my base is, like I know what I have to get per pound at my base. And I would like to make some profit over that. That would be awesome. And so I've actually, you know, I kind of pivoted, and I'm working with 3 restaurants now to get that outlet of burgers, because it's got to go somewhere, and they're able to use it. And so, you know, that's one thing that I've had to do. And you did mention earlier about being USDA stamped meat, and I don't know if that's a requirement for you or if that's what you prefer. I also want to just kind of clarify for people that any meat that is processed in a facility, a meat processor in Wisconsin, has to be Wisconsin inspected and certified. I can take that meat then and sell it. USDA is another level of inspection. It's a federal inspection. And for me, the only benefit of being federally inspected is I can then take that meat across state lines and sell it. So I don't know if as a institution, if that's a requirement that you have USDA certification or not on meat. And the nearest USDA processor is not very close to me. In order to, you know, I'd have to truck my animals quite a ways in order to get you USDA meat. So
that's a good question. Is Sarah or Josh, are there any specific requirements around meat products that they have to go through a USDA facility or not?
When I first started purchasing, I was working with DPI and DATCAP fairly closely because it was a new avenue for me for purchasing local meat. And they did recommend the USDA. I don't know if it's a requirement. The person who I was put in contact with, the farmer, she happens to already have it. So I don't know what the rule is. It just happened to fall into place that way for us. So I'm uncertain.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I just Wisconsin inspected and certified is very healthy. I mean, very safe. I just want to let people know that it's very safe.
Yeah.
I'll jump in here real quick, and I'm vaguely remembering. I used to work at Department of Public Instruction, but I feel like there was some instruction from DPI, and I'll look it up and send it out here, that it was either USDA inspected or state facility. I feel like I'm recalling that language being together, but I can't find it real quickly right now. But I'll find it, Lisa, and I'll be sure to send it out to the group.
Sure, yeah, because there's mobile slaughter units are becoming much more commonplace now, where a truck comes to a farm, they slaughter the animal on site. And then, you know, it's taken back to an inspected, certified plant to be cut and packaged, and that's also very legal to do. If I were to personally down an animal and process it at my farm, I can't sell it. I can't, because I'm not inspected. I don't have an inspector standing here, and it's, you know, that there's that kind of thing. So yeah, just thought I would double check about the USDA versus a state Wisconsin inspection.
Yeah.
But those were all my questions, and I do appreciate all of your efforts to source local and work with, you know, local farms and producers. You know, love that you're doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining us. And I know we can be, REAP in particular gets very vegetable focused. So thank you for bringing up the meat conversation too. And then dairy is a whole other issue, but I don't think we need to get into that too much because there's lots of programs and systems in place for dairy products. But do we have any other questions from our panelists? We're at 12:55 and we want to wrap up here, but I also don't want to cut off any conversation or questions that people may have. Michelle had to drop off, but you know, we still have Sarah and Josh here to answer questions.
Yeah, just the question I asked, what is the right time for, I mean, I always kind of default to real base level planning. Like if you had a group of 5 schools and I think this is how this can actually work well, get together and say, look, how different are we really? You know, we're probably going to end up needing the same things in large part. Let's talk about what our projected usage is going to be and then communicate that back to growers and say, we need it to be this price. Can you do it? That's always going to be part of that negotiation. Like, can you do the volume? Can you do the price? And can you plan that into your business model? What's the right time to have those conversations?
Yeah.
I mean, well, we're a pretty new farm and we are doing veggies. And so we start planting the seeds in the greenhouse in April.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing what you're going to want in the fall goes into our planning for what seeds to buy and how much to put in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if 2024 in September, you would want a certain number of tomatoes or heads of lettuce, it'd be great to know that in the spring of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm new to all this here. I'm thinking the season of what we can harvest doesn't exactly coincide with the school year that well. So we would love for everything to be heavy in the fall with a lot of veggies. There's certain things obviously that save and freeze and we can preserve, but not everything. So
Yeah.
to be involved as a veggie producer, I think we'd want some sort of an understanding in April or May, and then a lot of delivery in right when school starts.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, as a beef producer, I can say that the local want and need for meat has really exploded a little bit, even more in the last year than it has. And I've been selling beef for 35 years off my farm. And I usually sell out of beef come September to December. I'm sold out. I don't have any more to sell. This year I sold out in June. So, you know, but what I can say, I think a lot of meat producers, winter months of like January, February, March can become slow months for them in terms of moving meat, because for whatever reason, everybody thinks they need to fill their freezer in September. They got to fill it up in September and October, have it for the winter. And so then, you know, January comes and you're like, oh, I've got these animals they need to move, but people aren't, you know, ready for them. So meat producers maybe January, February, March, but then if you really wanted to involve, you know, a farmer with quantity, I would love to have 4 to 6 months, early notice.
Sure. Well, and I would imagine, like, do you do your own calving?
Yes.
Like in some regards, you almost need a couple years, right?
Right.
Yeah. So,
you know, I need 500 pounds of this. I'd have to do some shifting to make
right.
that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like those meat conversations is really like, okay, what do you need 2 years down the road? And that really allows you to plan growth and figure out what your capacity is. Vegetables, at least, I feel like, when are you ordering seeds, Jeannie? Is that December, January, or do you order them earlier in the fall for the next year?
Oh no, it's in the winter. It's in the
Winter.
winter or early
Yeah.
spring.
Okay.
Doesn't give you that. It's in the winter basically, but yeah, if there's a big order or something, there could be seeds that we get.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, we are at 1 o'clock. Thank you everybody for joining us. We will share this we'll create the YouTube videos for this part 1 and part 2. We'll share those too, and please feel free to email me any other follow-up questions. And we'll be working on putting our next events together. So we'll be in touch. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.